Well, we'll get started then. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Amy Osher, the host of the Naples Daily News show Behind the Headlines. We'd like to welcome our in-studio guests, our online viewers, the panelists, and of course, the candidates. Each candidate was supplied a list of the rules. They're also posted outside. But the gist of it is that each person will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. Every question they will have 1 minute to answer, and we'll also keep track of time and notify them if they are going long. The end of our forum today, we'll have a minute and a half for closing statements. So we do have a couple of rules of conduct for the audience. You may have been here all night and been familiar with them, but we have no signs or t-shirts, no cell phones, no pictures or videos, no speaking from the audience, no show of support for or against any candidates, no clapping. We'll have applause at the end of the program, and Naples Daily News reserves the right to deny anyone entry. Now, to introduce our panelists, we have editorial editor Alan Bartlett with the Naples Daily News. In the middle, we have Brent Batten, columnist for the Naples Daily News. And on the far end, we have Chad Oliver with NBC2. So please welcome our candidates. These are the Collier County Commission District 5 candidates. District 3. We got out of order tonight, I think. So, excuse me, right next to me is Ron Kezeske. We have Burt Saunders in the middle, and Russell Tuff at the far end. And if we'd like to get started with our opening statements, Mr. Kezeske, you have 2 minutes.
Well, as I often say, 2 minutes is just about enough time to teach you all how to say my last name. Instead of doing that, I'm just going to ask you to vote for the first person on the ballot when you look at the District 3 race. So first and foremost, who is Ron Kezeske? Well, my wife and I are both local business owners. We relocated here in 2009 so I could attend Ave Maria School of Law, where I've graduated since then. I'm a homeowner residing inside District 2, where my wife and I have been for probably the last 4 years, not at the current location, but in District 3 for the last roughly 4 years. I'm married to my wife, who also happens to be my seventh grade sweetheart, which tells you how dedicated I am to pursuing things. I'm active in numerous organizations in Collier County. Most notably, and which has made the Naples Daily News most recently, is the Naples JCs, which is currently keeping one of our Naples traditions alive, that being the Great Dock Canoe Races. So why get involved into politics? And that really stems from my involvement in business. I'm concerned for our future economic sustainability. It takes far too long to get a business open, and instead of the government being an asset to business owners and helping them get things going, they become a barrier to entry. I am a fiscal conservative. We run a balanced budget at our home and a balanced budget on our businesses. We want to make sure that we maintain our quality of life. As you've heard about all evening, growth is coming. But folks, growth cannot come at the expense of our quality of life. I believe in responsive representation. I believe that your commissioners should be out and about. That's why we've committed to our constituents to do town hall meetings on a monthly basis. And I am unencumbered by political affiliations and associations. Many think that being here only 7 years is actually a hindrance. I believe it's a huge asset because I can go in and represent every single constituent in District 3 with the same enthusiasm and listen to them equally while I go to the board and represent them. I look forward to the questions. Ron Kezeske for County Commission District 3.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, and I want to thank all of you for being here this evening and all of you that are watching online. My name is Burt Saunders, and I'm running for the Collier County Commission District 3, and you can learn a lot about my campaign at burtsaundersforcollier.com. I want to suggest to you that experience matters. Collier County is going to be facing a tremendous number of very significant issues in the coming years, especially those associated with growth. So I think experience matters. You're going to have 3 new commissioners, and there's a significant learning curve in terms of getting up to speed with all of the county issues. Now, my experience, I think, is what separates me from the other folks running in this particular district. I came to Collier County in 1982 to serve as your county attorney. After about 4 years as your county attorney, I felt that there were some very significant problems in county government. I made the decision to run for the county commission. I served 8 years on the Collier County Commission during the time when we developed the first comprehensive plan for Collier County, a plan that was recognized around the state as a very good plan for protecting and preserving Florida's, Collier County's environment. After 8 years, I made the decision to leave the county commission. I ran for the House of Representatives, And I was fortunate enough to be elected, served 4 years in the Florida House, and then I served 10 years in the Florida Senate, serving Collier County and Lee County, dealing primarily with issues such as health care, protecting Florida's environment, and making sure that public safety was at the top of the list for our state. So I want to suggest to you again that experience does matter, that the experience that I have will help guide the county commission in dealing with some of these very significant issues. I mentioned growth. If we don't manage growth properly, that growth has the potential of impacting our transportation systems, our environment, our water supplies, and having a very, very negative impact on our quality of life. I know how to deal with managing growth and look forward to the questions concerning growth as we proceed. Again, Burt Saunders, I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Tuff?
First, thank you for hosting this, and thank you for being here and caring about your community. And I'm Russell Tuff, and I've lived in District 3 for 27 years, running a business, serving my community, and with my wife, Katie, raising 2 sons. I've also published newspapers in District 3 for over 20 years. And when you're a publisher of a newspaper, you're highly engaged in your community. You get to know it, the insides, the outsides, and you become engaged in that community. And I've worked with many of you in many volunteer capacities, including Collier County's first Tourism Council, Collier County's first Economic Development Council. I've served on the Golden Gate Master Plan Advisory Board, and I've also served as a Collier County Planning Commissioner. And some of the fun stuff is I also coached youth football, Little League Baseball, and served as a Cub Scout den leader. And so why am I running? Well, the reason is I have these 2 sons that are coming back, and I want what you want, and that's to maintain and improve our quality of life. And when my sons left for college, it was my hope they'd someday return, find employment opportunities, and raise families of their own in a community that is like none other. And most recently, this became a reality as my youngest son became employed with the Collier Sheriff's Department, and my oldest son is now employed with the Collier County United Way. And now they're building homes, getting engaged, and I assume pretty soon I may be a grandpa. And so what I want is for them to have the same quality of life to raise their children that I did. Some of the issues that I believe are important is our growth, as we've all discussed. The second is public safety, which includes funding our Sheriff's Department to keep up with growth. I also think with our fire and EMS, we can do a better job at coordinating those services and improve the service and reduce the cost of providing those services. And I also believe we can expand our base from business so our residential taxes don't have to cover it. So I'm a 27-year veteran of our volunteer community, and I guess I want to take it to the next level. I need your help to do that. Russell Tuff.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now for the meat of our program, we'll start with the questioning, and Alan Bartlett.
We've had a couple of folks drift in, so I just want to reiterate, these 3 gentlemen are running for the Republican nomination for this commission district. There is a Democrat on the ballot who is going to face the winner of this race. These gentlemen will have their race decided August 30th, and then November 8th will be the general election to determine the commission seat ultimately. I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction on the first question here than I intended, and I'm going to go back to your comments about growth and quality of life. To what degree is the need for affordable and workforce housing part of the equation in providing that quality of life as we grow?
Who would you like to take that?
I'd be happy to start with that question. Well, workforce housing has been a frustrating topic to address at a lot of these forums because I don't think quite anyone knows exactly what we mean when we talk about it. So right as I was sitting listening to the other forums, I actually wrote down some facts. These are current to date. As of right now, there's 160 properties available for sale under $150,000 in Collier County. There are 665 properties from $150,000 to $250,000. There's currently 3 properties under $190,000 that have been on the market for longer than 90 days. So what exactly are we saying when we talk about workforce housing? Are we just saying that we want to help people afford better homes than their budgets allow? I've often heard that we have trouble attracting quality workforce because our workforce housing isn't available. Well, I've reached out to some of these people and I've said, folks, why did you choose to buy in Lee County? The answer is always the same. We can't afford to live in Collier County. My question to them then is, well, what did you pay for your house? The answer is never different.
Time.
Oh, I thought we had a minute and a half. I apologize.
Yeah, the question and answer session, all the questions and answers. Mr. Saunders.
Without question, we do have a workforce housing problem. It's been pointed out many times, literally thousands of Collier County employees that live in Lee County, and the amount of money that they take home from their paychecks that they're spending in Lee County instead of Collier County. It's been said that quality of life is a good job. Well, I think quality of life is not only a good job, but is also a good place to live, good quality housing. There are things that the Collier County Commission can do to incentivize the development of affordable housing. It's not a magic formula, but there are a couple steps that can be taken. One is to reduce or eliminate impact fees for really truly qualified affordable workforce housing. Another is to increase density. If you increase the density, obviously you drive down the cost of land. Now there are one of the questions about, if you reduce impact fees, how do you make up for that? Well, there are communities, and Lee County is one. I'll have an opportunity to talk about how Lee County has reduced impact fees, but has also made sure that growth is paying for growth. We do have an affordable housing, workforce housing problem, and I look forward to dealing with that.
Mr. Tuff.
Thank you. I think when we talk affordable housing, we need to talk it on two levels. First is, my son is with the Sheriff's Department, and his fiance is also with the Sheriff's Department as a 911, so she tells him what to do as a 911 operator. But also for buying that home, those are the exact people that we're trying to accommodate. How do we fix it? Well, without our help, there's programs in place through the county and through the state for first-time home buyers where they can get a lower down payment. They were able to buy a house. They bought a $280,000 house. Their house is nicer than mine, and they're the exact people we're talking about. So we shouldn't try to solve problems that may not be appropriate for that, if I got enough time. Like in the district of zip code of 34116, the median price of a home sold in that area in June was $248,000. That's affordable. That fits all criteria for that house. But the problem that we have is people come to town, they can't buy that house. So our biggest problem we have is with rentals. And so people can't find a place to rent. They can't buy when they first come to town. So if we can accommodate more density in areas, and that way it's beneficial. Thank you.
Brent, do you have a question?
Question along the same lines that may give each of you a chance to finish where you left off. Are impact fees too high in Collier County, too low, or about right? And if you're going to lower the impact fees, how do you make up the difference? Mr. Saunders, you mentioned the Lee County example. Maybe you'd like to further explain how Lee County does that.
Yeah, what Lee County has done, and I think Collier County should take a look at it, and Lee County doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but it certainly is a model, and it's something that we should look at. In Lee County, they've reduced impact fees, and I think our impact fees are too high and should be reduced. At the same time, we should make sure that growth pays for growth. So how do you do that? Well, when you have a new home that's sold, obviously that is growth, and those taxes associated with that new home are associated with that growth. And what Lee County does is they take those taxes, they put it into an infrastructure fund. If you have the sale of a house and the assessed value goes up because there's a new purchaser and the homestead exemption goes to the fair market value, which is the sales price, what they do in Lee County is they take that incremental bit of increase in taxes and they put it into an infrastructure fund. And so they have found a way for new growth to pay for the infrastructure necessitated by that growth, but at the same time lowering impact fees. We can use that type of policy to incentivize workforce housing. $20,000 for impact fees on a $200,000 house is a very substantial percentage of that.
Thank you very much. And why don't we go down to Mr. Tuff along the way?
I think with the impact fees, if you're building a 1,500 square foot home, you have your family that's going to impact the roadways, the different things. If you're building a mega mansion, you have a whole lot more impact you're going to have. Those are like a commercial facility. You have people that are full-time working, full-time cleaning, and so they should be treated differently. And right now, there's not much disparity between those two. The other area I think that we could do a little better job is probably with businesses. I just remember we did a study with the paper on a dental practice if he was going to open up, and so it was a 3,000 square foot unit. And by the time he was done, it's going to cost him an extra $50,000 a year he's going to need to generate doing one tooth at a time. And so I believe we need to revisit what we're doing with the business taxes, and I don't have that answer today.
Thank you. Mr. Kezeske.
With regards to the impact fees, what I'd like to see is the actual numbers put together on what a graduated system would look like, because I do agree to a certain extent that a 1,500 square foot house should not have the same fees as a 6,000 square foot house. However, we have to really consider impact fees are meant to deal with exactly that, the impact that that house is going to have on our roads, on our schools, and so on and so forth. So is it likely that 3.2 may have the same impact on the roads and the schools as a 6.5 sitting in Port Royal? I don't think that's an unrealistic thing to consider. With regards to commercial, we do need, I believe we need to go in there and revamp that system. It is far too expensive to build out new facilities in the commercial industry, which is actually slowing up our economic growth, and I believe is going to affect our long-term economic sustainability.
Thank you very much. Now, Chad, would you like to offer up a question?
I would love to. Thank you all for being here tonight. Shows you're interested in our community and the issues that matter. So I want to direct this next question to Mr. Russell Tuff. And Russell, you already got the microphone. You're ready to go. You mentioned sports in your opening comments. Sports, recreation. Should Collier County be in the business, if elected to the board, should the board publicly advocate and incentivize a Major League Baseball team coming to Collier?
Well, first, I've said many times, if we're going to go after a major league team, let's not pick the team with the worst record in baseball, the Atlanta Braves. But secondly, I haven't seen that as paid off for many people. Lee County that's their stick, and we can all go play baseball in Lee County if we want to go play. But I think right now, Collier County, it doesn't fit as well. I'm not going to say that we shouldn't do it. I believe that if we could incorporate that, we're going to need parks, we're going to need facilities. Our youth need to be able to have fun and enjoy themselves. If we could coordinate that with some of the funds that we're going to have to expend already, then maybe it could help subsidize it. But as the plans I've seen so far, I don't believe they fit our criteria. It would be appropriate for Collier County.
With regards to expending taxpayer funds to finance a private entity such as the Atlanta Braves, the answer is simple, and the answer is no. I am not a proponent of public-private partnerships, nor will I ever be. They pay their ball players millions of dollars to be on the field playing ball. Why should I come and ask you to spend your tax dollars to bring them here and build them a facility? With that said, just to go off on a bit of a related tangent, when we're looking at these things, when we're looking at the build-out, and I do want to go off onto the North Collier, as we expand our sports complexes, we need to make sure that they're done appropriately, properly, and strategically placed. Right now, we have North Collier Park, and I believe that the location for BCI is a fantastic location. So there are facilities that are on their way. We just need to get them built.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders.
You know, it's a very good question, and it's one that's very politically charged. I will say that we need to take a look at what they've done in Lee County again. And again, I don't like to necessarily use Lee County as an example, but you take a look at Hammond Field. That's a tremendous facility that provides a significant number of sports fields for youth sports associated with that. That's a venue that has proven to be very valuable to the residents and citizens of Lee County for not only sporting events but concerts and things like that. One of the primary supporters of a sports facility way back in the late 80s, early 90s were the people that were involved in the arts and with our Philharmonic. And the reason they were supportive of that is because it was another venue for types of entertainment for our citizens. So I think if you can find the right location, which would be very difficult, no impact on the communities, it's a good thing to take a look at. Remember, there are no ad valorem taxes associated with that. It's tourist taxes and sales tax rebates from the state of Florida.
Thank you. Alan, do you have your next round of questions?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Burt, why don't you start with this one? And then let's go to Russell after that, and then back down here to Ron. I want to come back to the growth and the quality of life comments again that you all started out with, and we're seeing a huge increase in the tax roll here, a 10% increase in the tax roll. There's a lot of additional revenue coming into the county, that tax revenue. You've got needs in your district. What's your position in terms of returning some of that increase from the tax roll to the taxpayers, or will you invest that into infrastructure instead?
Well, it's my hope that the county commission in the final budget hearings in September will go back to the rollback millage rate so that our citizens are not experiencing an increase in their taxes. We do have significant problems with infrastructure and other things that we need to find ways to fund. When I was on the county commission back in the late 80s, early 90s, I formed the Productivity Committee. That was a committee that helped Collier County government evaluate every department of the county with a group of citizens that had experience in accounting and in budgeting. And they were able to find ways for each department to become not only more efficient in what they did, but more efficient in the way they spent money and what their mission was. I'd like to take a look at reinvigorating a productivity committee to see where we can save money. I also believe that we can stop wasting money. For example, the county has spent over $7 million in litigation costs in fights with itself between the clerk and the county commission and the fire district. Those types of things are costly, and we can save a lot of money.
Thank you. On to Mr. Tuff.
Can you ask that question again? I got distracted.
Yeah, again, going back to the idea of growth, we see the tax roll has jumped about 10%. That brings in a lot of additional tax revenue for the county commission to decide what to do. Do you reduce taxes, or do you put that money into infrastructure?
Okay, well, I think right now we aren't up to the levels that we were before the crash, and so I think a little of both. I think eventually we can level out and then we can reduce those. I think the biggest problem that we're going to have is we're probably going to be about $40 million short of providing all the infrastructure that for all the growth that's going to happen in the future. And I think where we messed up in the 90s is we didn't build the roads, and we didn't buy the land, and we didn't plan those roads ahead. Right now, money is cheaper than it's probably ever been, at least in my lifetime. And so right now we can bond out. Let's get the roadways that we know we're going to need. We can put the projects into place, and we can pay for that now, and it will save us a ton of money. Before, when we didn't keep up, we had to pay twice as much for the land opportunities. We had to pay twice as much for the planning. We had to pay twice as much for the construction. We can take care of some of that right now and save ourselves a lot of money in the long haul.
Thank you. That leaves the last word for Mr. Kezeske.
With regards to the additional revenue being generated, I believe that the taxpayers, at least the ones that I've knocked on the doors and chatted with, would appreciate a little continuity and a little consistency in their tax roll. To lower it now, to only have to raise it back up later when we have to address additional infrastructure needs, does not provide a service, continuity, or consistency to the taxpayers. We know we're behind on a lot of our infrastructure. One of it was mentioned in the D5 forum with needing to open a additional interchange on I-75. That's a safety concern at this point in time. So we need to be using these funds wisely to ensure we're improving our infrastructure moving forward. With regards to bonding out, I'm really not a big fan of putting the county further into debt at this point in time. I believe that my experience in the real estate market is going to provide a huge asset to the county commission, being that I believe real estate is a little higher than it needs to be right now. So purchasing land at a point right now could actually be to the county's detriment.
Thank you. Brent, you're up.
Burt, did you go first on that one?
I don't remember.
I think you
No,
did.
I did.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Okay. How would you propose to lessen the friction between the county administration and the clerk of court's office, which has resulted in litigations, cost taxpayers millions of dollars?
You know, I can't imagine that we were going to have those problems. I looked at all of us and all the guys that are running in District 2, District 3, and District 5, and not a one of us had said we're going to have those problems. All we're going to have to do is go and say, how do we fix this? And we act like adults. We aren't going to chest bump, and we're not going to say, I'm right, you're wrong. I think, how do we fix this and how do we solve it, and the problem will go away.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm a strong believer in discussions, and I think that might have been part of the fault in what was going on here now with the relations between the clerk and the current commission and the administration of the commission. Is we just need to be keeping our conversations open to make sure that we aren't entering lawsuits. Now, there are some legal questions at play here, and it's going to be up to the courts to decide some of those. Not all of them, but some of them with regards to whether the county can delegate certain duties. So some of this stuff is necessary to get a final ruling on, because it's a question of whether our current policy is a valid policy. But with regards to the relationships, I've had the opportunity to sit down with our current clerk. I've had the opportunity to sit down with many of our current commissioners, and I believe that we can create a great relationship between those two. And I assure you that when the CFO, as I call the clerk, comes to me and says we may have a problem, I promise you I'll be listening.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you. I think the solution to the problem is very, very simple. It's simply people sitting down and talking about what the issues are and resolving them. You don't see corporations, different departments of corporations suing each other. And that's essentially what we have here. We have one department of government suing the other department of government. Makes no sense at all. So it's just a matter of determining what is necessary for the clerk to do the audit function that he has, which is a very important function, and making sure that the county contracts are properly worded. Ron had indicated that there's some legal questions at play, and I disagree with that. We have 67 counties in Florida. There's only one county in the state that's suing itself, and that's Collier County. And Collier County has been doing this for years. No other counties are involved in these types of legal questions. The legal authorities is pretty well settled. It's a matter of the county commission making sure that the contracts are properly worded and that the contractors are providing the backup that's necessary for the proper audit function of the clerk. There's nothing magical about this. There are no difficult legal issues here.
Thank you. Chad.
When we talk about presidential candidates, you often hear the first 100 days phrase tossed out. So tell this audience tonight, gentlemen, in your first 100 days, what is the number one priority, one specific issue, item that you will advocate for if elected? Let's begin with Ron Kezeske.
Well, you took part of my closing away from me here.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I've been doing the most important job of the county commissioners already for the last 380 days since I announced my candidacy, and that's being out and about in the public. And that's my intention the first 100 days, is to be available, to be around, and if I have to knock on doors to get answers from people after elected, I'll do that too, because not everyone makes it to the town hall meetings. But that's one of the reasons that I put in place in my platform to host monthly town hall meetings, because in going out knocking on doors, people want access to their commissioners. They want to tell their commissioners what's going on. Folks, I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you what, in the 380-ish days that I've been running my campaign, I have learned a whole lot about the people of Collier County and what the people of Collier County want from their commission. And I assure you the first 100 days won't look a darn bit different than the race that I've ran.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you. Another very good question. I think that one of the issues that we've talked about all evening is transportation. One of the things I've learned in my dealings with Collier County is that we do not have sufficient funding from the Florida Department of Transportation for our state road system. Collier County has been shortchanged by DOT for the last 12 years, and that's from a report from DOT. Instead of getting 80 or 90% of those funds that we send to Tallahassee, we've gotten less than 50 to 60% of those funds. So one of the first things I will do on the county commission is make sure that we communicate with our legislative delegation and with the Department of Transportation, and we increase that level of funding. The second thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to go through 2 or 3 things. One is Governor Scott is, as a priority, wants to fund veterans nursing homes. Collier County government has done nothing to move that ball along. We should be working with the governor to get a veterans nursing home paid for by the state of Florida here. And the other thing I want to do is begin the dialogue on renewing Conservation Collier.
Thank you. Mr. Tuff.
Yes, I think I spent the last 2 or 3 years on a fire merger team between East Naples and Golden Gate, and we had these really bright people in the rooms, you know, IBM consultants and people that had worked with unions and all these different experts in the field. And I think, you know, for 30 years they've been trying to merge the fire departments and do different things like that. But we brought these people, citizens, together that have the brights, the intelligence, and we made that happen. And so now East Naples and Golden Gate are merged, and we're finding the benefits that's happened. And I think what we've seen over the last 4 years or so is we've eliminated the Environmental Advisory Committee, we've eliminated the Productivity Committee, we've eliminated all these different advisory committees that add value where we have these expertise in our community, and to me, it's to reinstate and get that activity happening. The more our community is involved in what we're doing, the better it will be for all of us, and that will be my main thrust, is get you all involved.
Thank you very much. I saw quite a few people turning in question cards, and I think Alan is going to start us off with some of your questions.
Indeed, and I see some folks who have been here all night. I want to thank you. We hope you'll return in October when the Democrat and the winner of this race here will hopefully be on our stage here, and we'll come back at that point. I want to go back to a reader question having to do with the size of the county budget. I'd like to hear from all of you what experience you have in order to be able to step in and manage a $1 billion county budget. Let's go ahead and start with Burt Saunders.
Collier County obviously has a very complex budget. One of the problems that commissioners have is that staff has control of all of the information. The commission will be presented with tremendous volumes of budget material, and it's very difficult for a commissioner in a very short period of time to digest all that. So we need to make sure that there's more transparency, more dialogue between staff and the county commission on dealing with the budget. My experience is that I spent 8 years on the county commission dealing with the Collier County Commission budget. It was a smaller budget back in those days, but we had many of the same departments. It was pretty much the same type of budget, just smaller numbers. I spent 14 years in the Florida legislature, and the number one job of the Florida legislature every year is to adopt the budget. We had $72 to $75 billion budgets. I chaired the healthcare appropriations budget in the Senate, and so I know how to take a look at budget, but I also know the right questions to ask staff in terms of making sure that we get the information we need in order to analyze those budgets.
Thank you very much. To you, Mr. Tuff.
Well, first, I've already got good volunteers of people that are pretty bright folks that can do that. But second of all the budgets there's a smaller sections of each of the budgets, and they're all the same. How's this budget doing? Where's your money? Where's the revenue coming from? And how are you spending it? And I think the other is, I was with this firm here, and we had all these budgets, and it's a big company, and so then we had to deal with those budgets, and how do you allocate them? How do you do your resources? And there's no difference in the smaller or the larger, just adding zeros, but that's why I also don't want to rely on just me. I am going to ask for help, and I have some key people already lined up that said, yes, I will help you do that.
Thank you. Mr. Kezeske.
Well, having ran my own business and helped my wife run her business for the last, my business since 2011 and hers since 2012, we know how to run a budget, whether it's small or large. I believe I'm the only one sitting here that's ran a budget of their company that's 8 figures or larger. So I know how to manage a budget. And although businesses run differently, as pointed out by the Naples Daily News, that government isn't in the business of making a profit, what the government should be in the business of is spending money wisely. And I'll tell you what, if you're an entrepreneur or you know an entrepreneur, ask them what the most important part of being successful is, and that's that every dollar counts. At the end of the day, folks, that's what matters. So that's the experience I bring to the county commission, is that I truthfully understand that every dollar counts. Now, with that said, I've rounded up the same kind of people that Russ had mentioned. I'm not an expert in everything. That's why I've surrounded myself with the people that can help me understand some of the minute areas of various departments.
Thank you. Brent, do you have another audience question?
Sure. If you take it, Burt, then it'll end up right back where we're. Maybe Ron take this one first and mix it up a little bit. Should the county consider alternate uses of the Golden Gate Country Club property for something, if the owner asks for a rezoning for something, say, housing?
My position on it at this point in time, and I believe my position will stay, is no. We can't issue a rezone on that golf course. There's people who have bought property, have seen that property appreciate, and are being taxed at higher rates because they have golf course views. Again, having the real estate background, I've bought properties that are on that golf course, and I've bought properties that aren't on that golf course. And I can assure you, the ones on the golf course tend to demand a higher value. So to go in there now and change that into a residential zoning, in my opinion, could potentially devalue the land that abuts that people have already purchased that's zoned residential and that currently live there. To me, that could be a catastrophic mistake. And we talk about we don't want to enter lawsuits. This would be a fantastic way to get into a whole bunch of lawsuits with a lot of private property owners.
A good question, not a simple answer. People did buy their properties on a golf course believing that there would be open space around their property for the duration of the time that they own that property. That property is no longer going to be a golf course. Something's going to happen to it. It's either going to become overgrown with weeds, or it's going to be something that's going to be used differently. I think there may be an opportunity to take a look at different portions of that golf course, areas that are not abutting residential properties, because a lot of that golf course is abutting 951 Collier Boulevard. Some of that golf course is abutting other roads as opposed to residential units. We may be able to fashion a situation where there's some residential development on the portions of the golf course that will not impact existing residences under the condition that the developer maintains in perpetuity the open space around the other properties. So, it's easy to say, well, no, I oppose that, but at the same time, there is going to be something happening with that property. It's either going to become overgrown, or we're going to have to find a way to deal with it.
Thank you. Mr. Tuff.
When that piece came up, they said they wanted to put 700 units in that little area on a 2-lane road that goes to the school, and it's a totally inappropriate use for it. The people did buy the land and the house with that in the documents that it's going to be a recreational area. So it will be a recreational area. I see no reasonable reason why you would not have that. First thing that happened I thought was interesting, but I got calls from Bears Paw people say, well, why don't we just buy it and make it a municipal golf course? We all need one in town, and I think that's worth exploring, because we don't have one in our Collier County. I'm not saying it's the right thing today, but it's worth exploring. But it will be kept in its documents. It says it needs to be a recreational facility, so it will be something that's recreational. We don't need to put housing, we don't need to put commercial, but it needs to remain the character that the people bought and were promised when they purchased it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chad, do you have another question from the audience?
Well, I want to include a question that came in an earlier forum from a student. I believe her name was Bridget. She's a 5th grader. She had to leave because she's got school tomorrow morning. But gentlemen, I don't want to read anything into this question, but she drew a nice little picture. And the question is a simple yet complex one. What will you do to help the environment?
I think the most important thing, that is the beauty. It's how we exist. It's how we can stay alive. And I think the best part is so far, Collier County has done a good job of making this a great place to live. The developers have done a good job at keeping things beautiful and a nice place to live. The rules that are going to be put in place in the east, where all the development is going to happen, they're doing a good job. We're setting aside places where our water aquifers can be recharged. They're putting aside places where the water flows can work properly. And I think if we have the right leadership, we can continue that, and our environment will be safe and our air will be fresh, and I'm going to want to stay living here, and I'm going to want to grow my grandkids here too. And I think we're well on our way.
One of the things I mentioned in my opening remarks is the fact that if we don't do things to protect our environment and manage growth, we're going to lose the quality of life that's attracted all of us here. So there are some concrete things that the County Commission should do. I mentioned the Conservation Collier program, something that I would initiate in the first 100 days to get that on the front burner. That's something that should be presented to the voters. If we're able to readopt the Conservation Collier program, we can use those funds to purchase very valuable habitat, areas that are necessary for a recharge of our water supplies, areas that are necessary for wildlife corridors. The other thing we can do, and one thing that I would want to direct staff to do quickly, is to take a look at expanding the transfer development rights program so that there are areas that need to be preserved. We can't buy everything that needs to be preserved, but we can have those development rights transferred to other sending areas. So we need to expand the transfer development rights program, expand the number of areas where you have the transfer development rights and the sending areas, the receiving and the sending areas.
With regards to Conservation Collier, that's something that I think really needs to go before the voters, because it's not just necessarily buying the lands, it's the upkeep on the lands as well, and that takes money. I do agree with Burt on the TDRs, though, that if you go to my Facebook page, I posted the site, and it sounds like a real complex issue, but it's actually quite brilliant what we've done here in the county and how we allow things to develop. We allow developers to say, well, we're going to take our right to develop and move it to this area so we can have a denser place. One area in District 3 is Heritage Bay. Was built using a lot of TDRs, and these maps are just beautifully explained. So please, if you haven't had the chance, make sure you look at those things. But to me, the most important thing is right now we're going through our revisions on our GMP, our growth management plan. And as a commissioner, my plan is very simple. Stick to the plan. We're going through this process to ensure we develop Collier County the way we want Collier County developed. We need to stick to it as we move forward.
Thank you very much. That was our last round of questioning, and now it's time for the closing statements, and we're going to start from the other end, and that would be Mr. Tuff. You have 1.5 minutes.
Okay. Well, first, I'm Russell Tuff again, and I'm not a politician. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not a partner in one of the top lobby firms in the state of Florida. So you don't have to worry about where my interests and where my influence may come from. I think the biggest difference I've seen on this campaign trail is how we approach situations. One person says that they're going to create ombudsmen for business places. They're going to create ombudsmen for communities and create little bureaucracies for that. And it's me. I'm saying, I am your ombudsman. You vote me in, and I'm the one that's going to go to work for you. I've got 27 years, a record of running in this community on civic associations, business associations, government entities. I've been on school boards and teachers associations and churches. I've been on leading the charge for making our landfill smells go away. I've sat at drug houses and made the bad guys go away. And I started and served on a whole bunch of task forces that have made this community a better place to live. And I want to do that for you, and you need to help me to do that. You need to help me get elected so that I can represent you. You know, I'm Russell Tuff, and I will make you proud to say my commissioner is Russell Tuff, and I need your help and support to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders, you have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. I have served as a lobbyist, and I do work with one of the top lobbying firms in the state. When I get elected to the Collier County Commission, I will no longer lobby. But I will tell you that my experience lobbying is a real positive. One of the candidates in District 5 was talking about how he distinguished himself from the other candidates. He said that he has contacts in Tallahassee. He knows the political leaders in Tallahassee. Well, I'm a colleague of the political leaders in Tallahassee. When I knock on somebody's door, I get an answer. So that, to me, is an advantage for the Collier County citizens and for the Collier County Commission. I mentioned DOT funding. Well, as a lobbyist for Collier County, I determined that Collier County was being shortchanged by the Department of Transportation for 12 years. I told the county manager how to fix that. Very simple. You go to your legislative delegation, you go to the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, and you make noise. My experience, I talked about my experience is what distinguishes me from the other candidates. That experience will be very useful to the County Commission in dealing with some very, very difficult issues. We talked about growth, we talked about transfer of development rights, we talked about all of those issues that are very important for the future of this community. The reason that I am running is because I feel that, as all of you in this room feel, that we should do what we can to improve our communities. I believe that my best contribution to Collier County is to again serve on the Collier County Commission, to use my experience for the benefit of the citizens of Collier County. My name is Burt Saunders. I ask for your support. I hope I've earned it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kezeske.
Well, thank you all for coming, and thank you, Naples Daily News, for putting this on. It's great to have these forums, and it's great to see so many people that are concerned for their county. So a few points: what distinguishes me from my opponents? Well, having run businesses in the private sector, my wife and I have had a pretty good life here so far. Even though it's only been here 7 years, we look forward to 70 more years and raising our families here. I do intend on making this my full-time job. I've already stepped back from my real estate investment firm and essentially invest in real estate as no differently than you would invest in a real estate transaction of a rental, so on and so forth. I've also done something that neither of my opponents have done either, and Naples Daily News will be getting a copy of this as well. I've signed an irrevocable letter waiving my right to my pension, because I believe that serving on the county commission, I can make this such a beautiful place to live that my investment in the business sector of this, and my wife and my investment in the business sector of this county will only flourish by doing the right thing for this county. I've also committed to 2 terms in office, and people say, well, what's next? Folks, my family is next. I'm not trying to become a politician. I'm not trying to become a career politician. I love this county so much that when the opportunity came forward to do something for it, I stepped up as any citizen would, And I said, now is the time. I'm not going to wait till it's convenient. I'm not going to wait till somebody that I know steps out of office. I'm going to challenge that person because I announced prior to the current commissioner resigning. My name is Ron Kezeske, and I hope on August 30th you check the first box on that ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank all of you for staying here all evening with us. That concludes this round of forums.